What is hot blending? Why do we hot blend? And why is it such a big deal? Welcome to KCK Lubricants, and in this video, I'm going to try to explain the difference between hot blending and cold blending, some of the benefits of each system, and why it's such a big deal. Some of our motorsport engine oil products will have as many as 12 different components that we need to blend together to make that engine oil. How this product is blended and how those chemicals are blended together has a huge effect on that oil's performance under pressure, under extreme temperatures, and in the engine application while it's racing, but also has a huge influence on that product while it's in storage and sitting on the shelf. One of the most important situations that every oil needs to avoid is what's called additive dropout, and this is where that engine oil will break back down into its individual components and not stay blended together as a finished engine oil. And this is easily visualized in something like a paint tin where the paint becomes separated when that product sits on the shelf for even a short amount of time. The layers will start to separate and go back into their original components. Where this scenario becomes a massive problem is if you get that separation inside an engine sump for a race car that's sat between race meetings, you fire that engine up and that oil pump is no longer picking up engine oil. It's picking up a bunch of different additives that are not doing the correct job and will cause a huge amount of engine damage. It's also an issue when this oil becomes separated in the bottle. You should fill up your car with that bottle and it will tip raw additives into the engine, which are no longer engine oil and will cause a lot of damage. We've even seen many situations in the past where that heavy additive will actually block the oil filter, causing even further complications. So how do we avoid this? With our hot blending technique. Cold blending of oil products has long been a popular practice because it is cheap and it is quick. You can simply put all the additives and components inside a vat, agitate it or stir it, and then you've got the finished product. But this will always separate regardless of how long it sits for. Even for a short period of time, they will begin to separate. And we've seen some oil companies actually go away from using white bottles because you could see the heavy additives have stuck to the bottle when you've tipped the rest of the oil products out. It looks like there's moisture contamination in the bottle and it's like a milky substance stuck to the bottom. It's more than likely additive dropout. The phrase hot blending refers to the heating of all of those chemicals to get them to bond in a way in which they can no longer be separated by any physical method. And this is easily visualized by making your morning coffee with cold water. You can mix that as much as you like to the point where the coffee beans are suspended in the water, but they will always separate. But if you use hot water, it will mix and you can no longer separate the coffee beans from the water with any physical method. The drawback of this method obviously is cost and time. It costs a whole lot more to heat up a lot of oil, and it takes a whole lot longer to heat that oil up and keep it there to that point where the chemicals combine. It obviously results in a much better oil product, much more stable, it's got a longer shelf life, it's better in every aspect, but the cost suddenly blows up when you're making large amounts of engine oil. With a lot of experimentation, we've also found benefits on not only the peak temperature this mixture reaches, but how long we keep it there and how we go about agitating that product while it's in the vat. It limits us to the amount of oil we can manufacture, and also limits us to the size of the vat that we can use because we need consistent heating of that oil product. Every single one of our products are blended at a different temperature because each individual additive has its own characteristics that needs to reach a certain temperature before that chemical reaction can occur where all the chemicals combine together. And of course, that being said, it makes sense that it's hugely critical on how consistently we can heat those products. If we have a large tall vat where we can't get a consistent temperature through the whole mixture, we will get uneven distribution of the chemicals, and we may even get parts that are below that temperature threshold that will not mix correctly. So we've done a lot of experimentation on the vat size, the vat shape, and the heating methods we use. Many companies that advertise they use a hot blend method will use a large heating coil in the bottom of the vat, where obviously the oil around the coil is much hotter than the oil at the top of the vat. We've spent the money and built a couple of custom vats where they are jacketed and they're heated consistently and slowly, and we can then control the method in which we use to agitate and mix those products within that vat when it's at our desired temperature. Now, of course, by default, that's added a lot of extra time and cost to our oil products. We aren't really concerned about the cost of the products. It costs what it does. We're protecting really expensive race engines, and our customers generally don't particularly care about the cost. When we're not trying to vie for the bottom of the market where we need the cheapest possible product on the shelf. That's not what we do. Some of the arguments we've heard to defend cold blending include the engine gets hot, it should blend within the sump. Well, this also isn't true. Like I said before, some of those heavy products will not pass through the oil filter, and then you've got a blocked oil filter running on the bypass with an engine oil that's probably missing a critical component that is in there to protect your engine. So the cold blending stuff generally causes a lot more failures than the hot blended product because it is a lower quality. It's a lower price, it's a lower cost to manufacture, but it is not as good as a hot blended product. I hope that cleared up the difference between hot and cold blending and why we hot blend and why we bang on about it so much. We think it's really critical to the performance and the quality of the finished product. We think it makes an absolute massive difference. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next video.